Hello, this is Melissa, and I'm interviewing
Starian Malcolm.
and
Don Malcolm.
for my history project, and I'm asking them about um, JFK assassination. So, first of all, where were you and what were you doing when you first heard about his death?
I was still in high school, so I was in chemistry class. And they came over the loudspeaker and told us, I think that's how he did it, told us what had happened and that school was dismissed for the rest of the day.
Same thing for me. I was in English class and came over the loudspeaker. We went to the same school, and we were dismissed for the rest of the day.
And how did you feel, and what was your immediate reaction to this news?
Well, since I was still in high school, I was only 17 years old. I wasn't very aware or even politically motivated, so I didn't have any. I was happy school was going to be out, but there were a lot of people that were crying in the hall and stuff. It was a big school, 700 people, but I think I was
That was just a class.
Sorry.
okay. I think I was not. I just didn't wasn't mature enough to appreciate what had happened.
And it still brings tears to my eyes now because I'm a very sentimental person. And I think we were all scared because we had never known a prominent person, especially a president, that anything happened to, that they were even sick or anything like that. And there was a lot of crying, a lot of crying.
So, did you or your parents have days off from school or work after his assassination because a lot of places were closed?
Yeah, I think school was closed
Yeah.
for a while, but I don't remember exactly how long. And since we went to the same school, so
Yeah.
and my parents didn't have any time off. They went to where my dad went to work, and I think her.
I think
parents
my
went to
dad
work.
went to work
so
also.
they didn't get any time off for that.
What was your impression, or what do you remember the most about Kennedy?
Well, there's a lot to remember about Kennedy. He was really young and really appealing to females, which I thought was because presidents, weren't that appealing to women if they were a man because they were usually a lot older. He was so young, and so that at first was really different. But I think the way he handled the nuclear weapons that were put in Cuba, and he stood up to Russia and basically Nikita Khrushchev. That was, even back then, that was really impressive, and I thought that was probably he did some other things that were really bad, like the Bay of Pigs invasion.
Yeah.
It was a mess. He did a bad job there, but the economy was really pretty good while he was president, and he did get the Russians to take the nuclear weapons out of Cuba. That was scary. So that's what I remember the most about him.
And I was just a typical 16-year-old girl, not really caring about what was going on in my world, except probably school and boys, maybe. I do remember that he was really, really cute, and we thought his brother, Bobby, was really cute. And we did come to a rally up here in Indianapolis. He flew into the airport for something and got to wave a placard around. And then his brother came to Columbus, Indiana, and gave a talk down there, which it was, I'm sure it was something. That would have been before, though, wouldn't it? But that was before he elected, yeah. So I was really in his camp. And then after he got elected, you just heard about what a good family they were. We didn't know anything bad because we were kids. It wasn't in the history books or anything. And I probably didn't pay any attention to what was going on in the world. It was a disruption for us for probably a few days, and it made the country as a whole was sad. I think that's the first time in my life it was ever like that because we really didn't know war, as kids, and
What do you remember him for?
well, there was a lot of talk about his being Catholic,
Mhm.
because that was a kind of a
That
big
was
deal.
They didn't want him to be president. One of the big things they didn't want was a Catholic to be president. It had never been, and not everybody, but the people that objected thought he would do whatever the Pope told him to do, that he'd answer to the Pope. So they didn't.
And he was so young. We'd never known a young president in our time, and like I said, that we even paid attention to, because it was up to our parents to take care of stuff like that. And just had a real, seemed like family commitment. He had lots of support from his family, and that seemed to make a big impression, probably.
Okay, so that morning before the motorcade, so Kennedy didn't want to have the top of the limousine. So what made him so confident about the fact that he's safe?
I don't think we even knew that.
Really?
No, people didn't know.
Well, no.
We didn't have TV as much as we do now, that covers everything and tells
Well, we
what they're
didn't
going to
know it
wear.
at that time, but I don't think he ever had
Problem being confident. He was
and he really wasn't this. He was really kind of a hero to Americans because of his being in the military and being a PT commander, and
having a war wound.
yeah, and so he was kind of a hero, and so I think I don't think he really worried or felt that anybody would take his life.
And things like that didn't happen.
And
You
I-
just never
yeah.
heard of
And I don't
anything
think
like that happening.
I don't think it was.
So I don't
From
think
what
it
I
was
knew
clear.
at that time, I don't think it was a mistake. From what I know now, and what they told him before he went down there, it definitely was a mistake, because they warned him that there were possibility of something really bad happening. But I at that time, I think I was probably just fine. But now I've been passed by a presidential motorcade, and it's like a army tank coming down. It's really, there's no way you're going to harm anybody in one of those things.
So, since Kennedy is beloved by so many people, what was the main reason that got him assassinated?
Oh, well, that's a lot of conjecture.
Who knows?
There's all
Still.
sorts. There's all sorts of theories of why it happened. He and his brother went after the mafia really hard when he got to be president, and there may have been, and this is just, you'll never know, but they really hated him, hated the Kennedys. They really did, because nobody messed with the mafia.
But may I interject something?
Sure.
I think, too, now that we know that, there's always been theories that his father had been involved with the early mafia,
I don't
early
know
years
that.
on, and kingpins in different, what do you call it, avenues of, not jobs, what I want to say, commerce and stuff, and paid people off. So, who knows whether that even went far back.
And and also the Cubans didn't like him at all, because of what he did with the missile crisis and the Bay of Peace, and so either and the guy that killed him was a Cuban immigrant, I think, or at least he was from Cuba, and so I don't know. The mafia could have paid the guy to do it. He could have done it because he hated him, because he was Cuban. I don't know.
I thought he was from Russia.
Or no.
Oswald?
Yeah.
Oh, he was from Russia, but I thought he was from Cuba.
It's leading us to the next question. So Oswald, the killer, was arrested and charged of killing an officer, and then he became the main suspect of assassinating the president. So do you think that Oswald is the killer because we never knew if he actually shot those bullets because he was killed before attending the jury?
Yeah. Well, I think he actually was.
I think the evidence there was pretty clear
I've seen a lot of
in the building.
reconstructions of the whole
Crime
thing,
scene.
and it would have been a pretty miracle shot, but that doesn't mean he couldn't have done it.
So there are many conspiracy theories about
Right.
the assassination, do you believe that Oswald is the one that did it, or do you believe that there's some sort of organization behind him that?
I think he got paid to do it by somebody, and then the guy that killed him, I think, was paid to kill him so he couldn't talk. That's mine. And there's no way to ever
There's
prove
no
that
way to
either.
ever really know.
Because
You
the
just
guy
know
killed
what
him
they
was
told you.
already gonna die from cancer, so he could never, it
Jack
was,
Ruby.
yeah, everything was, they got rid of everything, got rid of the
And
guy.
at the time, we just didn't get information
Not like we do
like
now.
we do now, you know. We didn't even think about conspiracy theories till later on, you know. And it was just basically focusing on what had happened and how it affected the family and how the nation was involved, but not so much things behind it that we would have paid attention to. Probably was the
I don't remember hearing or reading much about its conspiracy theory for a year after or more, so I think they basically thought it was.
And then also, did we even read the newspapers back then? As kids,
Watch the news. I
You know.
probably read a little bit.
we were kind of all into ourselves, I think.
If you don't have the iPhone and the iPad.
And we didn't have remote
Yeah.
controls for TVs, and you had one TV probably per house.
4 stations,
4 televisions.
so we didn't get a lot of information.
Okay, so the Vice President Johnson sworn into the office as president only after, a few hours
Right.
the assassination. So he only served one term. And do you think that he did a better job at running the country than Kennedy did? Because many
Well.
people said that Johnson planned the assassination and stuff.
Yeah, that's another theory they got, but
I don't think he was bright enough to do
I
that.
don't know.
but
He was a real powerful man
he was
in
powerful,
Texas where
right,
we're
in
going.
Texas.
And I don't think he did a terrible job because he escalated the war in Vietnam up to 200 or 300,000 people, and he'd done such a terrible job he basically just quit. He said he wasn't going to run for president again because I forget his exact words, but and he started a lot of things that are still in existence that have proved to be really bad for the country. So I don't think Mr. Johnson was really a good. Kennedy, I think, was much better.
Okay. So what was your impression of Jacqueline Kennedy as a first lady?
I don't care. I don't have much of an opinion on the first lady. All I remember is she was really a beautiful lady, and she was really elegant, and supported her husband. And of course, we didn't know everything that went on back then that we do now, but as a person back then, I really thought she was magnificent.
Hmm. She really seemed to be a family person, very concerned about her husband and the fact that he'd had some injuries when he was in the service and stuff, and his health and their children. And she was really kind of fashion forward and brought a new kind of elegance to the White House and their state dinners and things like that. And people really looked to her fashion-wise because she always was immaculate in her dress, which you would expect a first lady to be that too, but very fashion conscious and very family conscious. I would say that was very fat, and I think she was aristocratic too. She'd been raised with wealth, so she knew what to do and how to present things. So.
Mm-hmm. So there are footages and photos showing that, seconds before he was killed and afterwards, his brain kind of went everywhere, and she tried to grab the fragments of his head. So what did you think she did that, and what was it like an appropriate reaction to what happened?
I think, well, yeah, she's in absolute shock that her husband got.
And I
she
think
didn't
as
know
a wife,
she didn't know he was dead, so I think she was in shock and was trying to help keep him alive.
So if you're there and your spouse just happened to your spouse, would you just
an automatic
Oh, yeah.
response,
Yeah.
I think, to
Yeah.
take care of someone that you love and protect them and, maybe think there's more coming, and just to basically I think that would be an instinct that would kick in,
Mhm.
familial.
Yeah, I think it was
Mhm.
quite appropriate.
So she wore her stained clothes throughout the day and wanted them to be displayed in the museum
Uh-huh.
150 years after the event. So why do you think she did that?
I don't know why she wore the clothes. I think she was in absolute shock all day. So I don't think she really
But I
cared.
think it was part of history too, that she wanted people to see what a horrible thing
Yeah,
had
now.
had
That's
transpired.
why she
Well,
wants
no,
it
I kind of think
displayed.
even then,
Oh, really?
that she really wanted the people to see what had happened to someone. That it was a show of
Respect or
yeah,
concern.
of respect, yeah, for her
Mhm.
to continue to wear her clothes.
And I think
But
she
I'm sure
wanted
it's
to
shocked, yeah.
display just because she'd like people to remember.
Wanted them
What-
to
what
remember
happened.
what a tragic event, yeah, that was.
Okay, so JFK was buried in the Arlington National Cemetery.
Right.
Have you ever been there?
We have
No,
not, have we?
No, we
We've
haven't.
been to Washington, but never had enough time to
Mhm.
go there. But I've seen it on television many, many times.
Okay, so comparing to other presidents, from your point of view, how successful was Kennedy as a president? Would he be in the top 5 of
Well,
all the presidents or top 10?
it's tough on all presidents because I know I'm old, but I haven't been around for all the presidents. But
Mhm.
I think the ones that have been president since I could remember presidents, I think he's got to be in the top 5 because
And he was very charismatic. The people really loved him. And I think had I been able to vote then, I would have voted Democrat, which I have been a Republican most of my life. And so, but have made a few voting mistakes. But I think he just really appealed to the people as a mass.
yeah, and I think he did a good job. So I think he's one of the probably top 5. You know, I think Reagan since I've been alive has been the best president we've had, and Carter is probably the worst that I've ever had, and maybe Nixon below that. I don't know where
And
I
like
put
we knew
Obama.
about the war back then, but we didn't really know because it wasn't on TV. You know, you didn't get the images presented that we have now, and we knew that our friends were going to the war and stuff, but it just didn't affect us because of our age, I think it was.
Mhm. So the national television interrupted their regular programming and broadcast
Mhm.
the assassination for 4 days straight.
Mhm.
It was the longest interruption until 9/11.
Mhm.
And why do you think the news paid so much attention to his assassination? Because before his, there were 2 other presidents that were also assassinated.
Yeah, but
Technology.
they didn't have the level of technology we had.
Mhm.
Plus, it was a real shock to the
Nation.
nation, and nobody was really quite sure what was going to happen next.
And I think because, you know, we had been in World War II, and there were young families. We were all products of this generation that came out of World War II, and it was like a new building of society because the war brought a lot of technology, and people were experiencing what this could do for families and everything, and the fact that everything was kind of bright and shiny, you know, and the world was supposed to be getting better. You know, you'd been through a war, and so things were going to get better, and you never thought that, and you thought maybe this was the president that was really going to do it.
Mm.
So, why do you think his death become so famous and widespread? Because 80s representatives from other countries flew to the U.S. just to pay their respect to
yeah.
him.
We were the most powerful nation in the world at that time, and so I think many of they all do that now. When a leader dies or some prominent person dies, a lot of people go. But back then, we were the most powerful.
I think he must have connected with a lot of
Yeah,
people too.
and he didn't really have, outside of Khrushchev and Russia, he really didn't have any enemies to
We had a
speak
lot
of.
of allies.
Well, Cuba.
That would be,
But for the most part, he hadn't created a problem between other countries, and I think everybody respected him, and due to our place in the world at that time, I just think they thought they should do it. Because he didn't, he really, I don't remember him having any enemies because of actions he took. once
and
he
I
got in
think
office.
when he was running for president, they had brought so much up about his family and what a huge support his family had been. And I think we as people thought that was really a great thing, and we should all have families that are like that. And to have a country then support you was pretty awesome, that you'd have that many people
Yeah, it's
behind you.
Nothing like now,
No.
where nobody gets
But everything.
any support. Everybody's mad at somebody.
Yeah. And everything that they did was something new, because we had never seen a
Yeah.
president's life documented on national news and outlets like that.
And he
But
did. He
just
made a lot of statements and did a lot of things that I think
Mhm.
impressed everybody in the
Mhm.
world. So
Mhm.
he got the space program going, and I forget what else, but he was quite an impressive leader.
Mm-hmm. I think his death overshadowed his accomplishment in his presidency.
Yeah, I do, because he was. That was such a shock to the nation, and it was. He was at that time, I think, very, very popular as a president. So everybody in the country was shocked, and since I know we've had other assassinations, but the first one, and everybody living at that time, I don't think they'd ever been around one. So, and it was kind of a dangerous time with the Russians, so everybody was in real big shock and extremely worried about our country when that happened. So
Mhm.
it overshadowed everything he did, but I still think he did a lot.
So, if Obama or any future president has a motorcade and is assassinated, how would the nation and the world respond to it?
Well, it has been a long time since Kennedy was assassinated.
I think they'd be shocked.
They'd definitely be shocked, but I don't think the whole, right now, the whole nation is really separated for some, really, and then there are a lot of bitter people, and I don't think they would hold, it would be a national event, and they would still mourn for the president's death, but I don't think it'd make as big an impact as Kennedy's death did.
And the
Just
media would drive it into the ground.
Yeah.
It would be so
Might
overwhelming.
Might be 4 weeks on the TV 24 hours a day, because media seems to really like Obama, but there's not about only half the people, I think, will admit that they like Obama. So I don't think it would have a big impact.
Not like
as
Kennedy.
that.
He came from somewhere where no one knew him. And the Kennedy family in general had been known. Don't you think?
Oh yeah,
And,
they were very powerful people.
Powerful
very
people.
Rich.
And Obama just
Showed up one day.
showed up one day. Yeah. Not with no history to speak of, and questionable history.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got a lot.
I mean, we would still
He
mourn
didn't
him.
have. I don't think he has
but
nearly
not-
the admiration that
No.
Kennedy did.
I don't think people look up to him now.
I'm not sure any other president would ever achieve that unless things change. And I don't see him changing.
Well, but Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders are quite well known as well, and we all know about their history. So, do you think that if they get assassinated, I'm not saying that they will, but if they get assassinated, will it become that popular?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I really don't. I mean, that family was a fairy tale family. It really was, and that had a lot to do with it too.
Mm-hmm.
Because he had a brother that was, I think, injured too in a war, killed in the war,
Yeah.
and a father that was very famous as far as politics.
Mm-hmm.
And the mother's family was, I think, pretty famous, and the fact that they were immigrants.
And we were a lot as a country as a whole, we were a lot less knowledgeable about real. We weren't as realistic as we are now.
Mm-hmm.
We know because of the information that we get every day. But I mean, we were a lot more, I think, realistic. But it also makes you less. You don't admire people near as much as you get. The newspaper, you just can't build them up to where they're imaginary, wonderful people like they did Kennedy. But they could for Kennedy.
Because now we find out everyone's warts. Nothing's held back, and no secrets. Like we had no idea about Kennedy's other life.
Yeah, nobody did.
Nobody
They
did.
just didn't put that out.
Wasn't talked about.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Thank you so much for your time.
Sure.